Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for FMT's presentation of Connect Customers and Their Information with CRM plus SharePoint. My name is Lucas Darling, and I'm Account Executive here at FMT, and I am joined by our very own Matilda Miller, who is our SharePoint Practice Manager, and Beverly Jarrell, who is our CRM Practice Manager. For those of you who aren't familiar with FMT, I'd like to just take a few moments to give you a brief overview of our company. Here at FMT, we opened up for business in 1995 and have successfully completed over 1,500 projects and have accumulated over 300 clients spanning the nation and even into Canada. During that time, we've been able to establish ourselves as Southern California's leading provider of integrated solutions, and along with our 21 years of experience, we have grown to well over 80 team members located both in Carlsbad as well as our office in Los Angeles. At FMT, we pride ourselves on our 5 core values, which we like to hold ourselves to each and every day. These are just some of the values that we look for in candidates who want to work with FMT. And these values are integrity, service excellence, collaboration, innovation, and passion. The FMT way is really something you begin to understand once you engage and begin doing work with us. With the combination of talent, experience, and methodology, we are fully dedicated to the success of your company. We offer a wide array of services pertaining to ERP, CRM, SharePoint, BI, and Office 365. In addition to our offerings, we have an entire department dedicated specifically to customer care, there to support you from 6 a.m. all the way down to 6 p.m. One of the things that FMT prides ourselves on is having an extremely experienced consultant who are versed in all kinds of backgrounds, industries, and systems, so we understand your struggles and want to help you. Here are just a few of the clients we get to work with on a daily basis. Now I'm going to hand it over to Matilda and Bev, but before I do, if at any point during the presentation you have a question, feel free to type them into the comment box. We will be monitoring it during the entire presentation, and we will answer them at the end. Thank you. Matilda? Bev?
Okay. Hi, my name is Bev Drell. I am the CRM Practice Manager. I've been with FMT for 1 year, but I've been in consulting for 10 plus years as well as IT over 20 years. So with that, I'd like to introduce Matilda.
How you doing? My name is Matilda Miller. I'm the SharePoint Practice Lead here at FMT. I've been at FMT for about 2 years now, and I've started working with SharePoint with its 2007 implementation.
All right, let's look at the agenda. Today, I'm going to give you a CRM overview, and then Matilda will give you a SharePoint overview. Then together, we'll paint the big picture and show you some integrations between CRM and SharePoint and walk you through those. So let's move on to the overview for CRM. There are 4 modules associated with CRM today. It's sales and marketing, which is what most people are familiar with. There's customer service, that is also another module. The new modules are project services and field services. So I'm going to go through and give you a high-level overview of the functionality of each of those modules. So let's look at sales and marketing. Maintaining a healthy pipeline by tracking and following up on leads and opportunities is always a management objective. Real-time analytics based on historical data and predictive information is sought after by all executives and the people in the field who are actually out there selling and marketing their company's products and services. Sell smarter with signals from Office 365 and Dynamics 365 that reveal a relationship risk. And if there is a relationship risk, let's take action. That is actionable insights. It's a new feature with Dynamics 365. As you can see from the graphic here, it shows you the relationship health that you have with those accounts and those customers. And it will indicate your customer engagement and what actions need to be taken with regards to following up, what meetings, what calls, typically your activities, but it's also predictive in what activities need to be taking place. Also new to Dynamics 365 is gamification. I think most who have CRM, sales, and marketing are familiar with goals. That is, achieving certain revenue goals as a team, as an individual, and stretch goals as well. Gamification is a new feature that provides really a lot of cool information regarding leaderboards. And leaderboards also are factored into the competition with regards to meeting those goals. So I advise you to look into that. You can go to App Source to look at gamification and download it. But again, it's for Dynamics 365. And then account-based marketing, also known as ABM, is the typical process for targeting prospective leads and turning those leads into opportunities. However, account-based marketing is a continuous program which never stops communicating with key accounts. Multi-touch campaigns that can employ a mix of core online to offline content types is an example of that type of engagement. So with that, let's move on to customer service. As you may or may not know, 76% of the customers use self-service to resolve issues. Our customer service module in CRM provides that capability. It provides knowledge-based articles that can be searched to help that customer resolve problems, and the customer can create a case online via the portal. Key metrics that you can track include trending product issues, case mix by priority or origin, active cases by agent, case mix by incident type are just a few examples. And stages from onboarding to resolution can be tracked as far as how long a particular case has been stuck in any one stage. Those are some examples of customer service. Let's move on to our newer products, or modules I should say, within CRM, which is project services. Project services is, again, something that is very strong within the Microsoft world. Everyone's familiar with Microsoft projects. With Microsoft project services, project planning includes setting up budgets, schedules, and managing those schedules and budgets, budgets versus actual. Also, it can capture resource time and expenses, which is critical to keep track of those actual costs associated with that project. And then there is service analytics that factor into the reporting of the project and the health of that project. Move on to field services. Field services originally was called Field One and was acquired by Microsoft. And Field One built this application on top of the CRM platform. So it has a lot of strong features, and I'll give you some examples of those. Know at a glance what resources are available and what equipment is available. And based on that availability, you can create work orders and assign those resources to that work order and schedule that work order on a scheduled board. You can also figure out where your resources are geographically. For example, if you have an incident management service, then you can find out what technician is closest to be able to help resolve that incident. Also, the technicians in the field have access to the work orders, to the schedule board, and also the capability to scan inventory with regards to checking equipment out and checking that equipment back in that is associated with that work order. So a lot of powerful features associated with field services. Let's move on to some content examples. All right, sales and marketing. Everyone's familiar with those statement of work, sales quotes, assessments. Anything that can be associated with sales and marketing can be considered content and associated with a SharePoint folder or site. Customer service, examples, orders, invoices, legal documents, contracts, incident reports. In projects, we know there's a ton of deliverables that can be associated with a project, scope documents, requirements documents, design documents, and more. So this can pile up, and this can create a mega storage issue as well, in keeping all of this documentation associated with the CRM various modules. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matilda to give you an overview of SharePoint.
Okay. Well, hello again, everybody. So let's talk about SharePoint for a second here. So Bev just went over the components of CRM, and remember she talked about those content examples. So let's talk about where we're going to be storing them and how we can store them. All right. So SharePoint has four major areas, right? So we have document management, we have collaboration and sharing, security and permissions, as well as process automation. So document management talks about the life cycle of the entire document, from creation to sharing to classifying. So how am I going to tag this document? How do I know what document belongs where? As well as discovering the document, right? So now you have all of this content, you know where it is, but how do you ensure that other people inside of your organization are able to find the content that they're looking for? Sharing and collaboration. So once you have it, how are teams working together with the content? How are you sharing internally, and how are you sharing externally? Security and permissions will speak to how you want to go ahead and protect this document. So now you have all this content. How do you protect it from the outside? How do you make sure that the people that are supposed to be viewing it are able to view it, and that those who are not supposed to be viewing it are kept away from it? And finally, process automation. So you can go ahead and automate a lot of the manual processes that you have, whether it's an approval process for a document before it needs to go out to a client, or say an approval process for some sort of PTO. All right, so document management inside of SharePoint, right? So document management with SharePoint is drastically different from document management that you would typically have on a file share. So a lot of times people think of it, they think of just creating files, filing them, retrieving them, editing. But what about versioning or workflow, that automation piece I just talked about, as well as publishing, retaining, securing? What about archiving? So like, what happens to the document once it's no longer in use? Are we just going to destroy it? Do we need to archive it for a later date so that we can refer to it? So SharePoint will definitely assist you with all of those. So let's talk about metadata for a second, right? So we talked about how we're going to categorize different documents, right? So in SharePoint, we refer to metadata. So we've all done online shopping before. So here, you'll see that we're online. I have a bunch of coats here. I'm trying to narrow down what it is that I want. To the left, I have some categories here. So when I'm looking here to the left, I can see that I have the categories over there, right? So I can say, you know what, I want to just see camping and hiking coats, or I just want to see men's coat or women's coats. So this is actually metadata. It allows you to drill down to the content that you actually want to see. So filtering a lot of times inside of a file share can be rather limited. Columns cannot be modified, or you can't set preferences on these columns. So think about it for a second. So usually when you have a document, right, you can get the name of it, you can get like a date modified, you can get a type. So what if I'm trying to categorize it a specific way? Like, what if I have a business requirements document that I want to categorize, or I want to have a statement of work that brought up that I want to categorize? So SharePoint is actually going to allow you to customize what those columns look like, so that your users can go ahead and find the content that they're looking for. Right? So inside of this demo, you can see the name, the modified by, which are just normal out of the box, but I can create, say, a document type and an owner's column. So once I do that, I can go ahead and quick edit, right? So it looks just the same way it does on an Excel spreadsheet, where you can drag and drop options. So I have 3 options there. So I want to tag these 3 documents as business requirements. I can also go ahead and add the owner to those documents. So I'm going to go ahead and add my teammate Raheem here, and I'm going to drag. So now these documents are the business requirements document type, and the owners are Raheem. So I have these here now. So what can I do? So let me click on the drop down. I can now filter by either requirements, presentation, or project plan, or 2 options. So I'm going to filter by presentation and business requirements, and then I can further go ahead and filter by the owner's name. So that way I'm going through all the results inside of the same library to find what I want. I can also go ahead and clear all those filters and get back to that original state that it was in. So this is just highly important, because it's not as if you're recreating areas. I'm using the same library to give myself a different experience. Now let's talk about search for a second. So although Windows allows users to search for documents. The search functionality isn't as rich as out-of-the-box SharePoint search capabilities. With SharePoint Search, you can easily locate documents based on search queries and refine and modify the search output through metadata. So remember we talked about metadata a second ago where we talked about the document type and the owners? Well, I can use this same metadata to go ahead and refine my search results. So let's take a look and see what search looks like inside of SharePoint. All right, so I have the metadata in search here. Right, so I'm going to go inside, so I can search directly in the library, or I can search the entire collection of SharePoint, right? So in here, I'm going to use what's called a wildcard, because sometimes I just don't know the full name of a document, so I'm going to say, bring up any documents that have temp inside of it. And it goes ahead and it brings up that document for me. Now, let's go ahead and do a global search, right? So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to go inside of search, and I'm going to search for David. So I'm searching for David, all right? And I can see here that I have everything, people, conversations, or videos. So these are the different verticals that are preset here inside of SharePoint. So because I searched everything, when I look at the bottom, I'm getting over 3,000 results. Now, no one wants to sit there and thumb through that many results. So let's say I want to search David inside of people, so I'm going to click the people vertical. So what this does is it pulls up every David that's inside of my company. So when I mouse over, because we're connected to link here, with Skype for Business, I can see all of the details for David. I know that he's away right now. I can see his title, as well as what he's a member of, any documents he's authored. I can even go ahead and view his profile inside of Delve. So now I'm going to click on Conversations. So I'm looking at Conversations. I can see every conversation that David has commented on, as well as any videos he's authored when I click on the videos vertical, right? So let's go back to everything for a second. So I'm back here at everything, and let's say I want to go ahead and I want to refine by some metadata I created. So I have the client there, I have document type. So I want to go ahead and narrow down to this client. And now I want to say, you know what, I want to narrow down some more. I only want to see documentation from this particular client. So I went from 3,000 results to 3. So beyond that, I can also go ahead and mouse over and get a preview of the document just so I can ensure that I'm selecting the proper document. I can see the last time it was changed. I can go ahead, I can open it, or I can follow the document just the same way you would in social media, so I can track changes. I can send it, or I can go ahead and view the actual document library here. So for this piece of it, that's what you do inside of SharePoint concerning search. So you see that we have the mouse over preview. So you guys can go ahead and take a look at what the document is before you actually click into it. I can go ahead and view that direct library. I can send it, which is a little different from sharing. We'll talk about sharing in a second. Or I can follow or open. And you can also perform these same actions directly inside of the document library. So the next area here is versioning, right? So versioning features inside of SharePoint help you get rid of multiple copies of the same document. So right now, a lot of people can have, just multiple versions, and it's very difficult for people to know what's the most recent version of the document. It also takes up a lot of space to have that much duplication. And it can also confuse search quite a bit. So with versioning, there will always be only one file, and you will always have access to all the previous versions by using the version history. So the version history contains information about when an item or a file was changed and who changed it. In the document libraries, the version history may also contain comments that people made regarding their changes. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So for sharing and collaboration, right? So we talked about sharing and collaboration. So you can share either internally or externally. So I can go ahead and I can share with my coworkers. So say I'm working on a document and I say, you know what, Bev, I'd like you to review this. So instead of me sending an email and then attaching a document, to Bev, and then, she makes her changes and then she sends it back to me, I can actually just go ahead and share that document from SharePoint with Bev. It's going to send her an email. It's going to send her a link to the document, letting her know what I shared. And, if I typed any notes there, that'll also show up for her. she can go ahead, she can take a look at the document, and then she can just respond back to me, or she can go ahead and make the changes that she needs to, and then share the document back with me. It's also easy to manage permission settings there. So for the permissions, so I can share with Bev, and I can say, you know what, Bev, I'm going to share this with you, but I don't want you to be able to make any changes. Or I can share it with her, and I can give her edit capabilities so that she can make changes. Also, the versioning piece that we spoke about, so this definitely helps with versioning there for sharing and collaboration. So if changes are made, I can actually go in, if Bev goes ahead and checks the document out, she can add some comments to it so I can see exactly what it is that she changed. And there's also one place to consolidate feedback. So when I go ahead and I check the version, the history is there, every comment that was left is there, and I don't have to search through my email in order to find things. All right, so for sharing and collaboration here, so I'm going to go ahead down to a document. So when I get down to the document, I click the ellipsis here. So what I'm going to do is go to advanced and go ahead and check out the document. And what checking out does, it allows me to edit the document without anyone else being able to edit it. But don't worry, people will still be able to see the previous version while you're still editing. It's not as if they have no access. Here, I'm just going ahead and I'm editing the document directly inside of the browser. So I have that option to either edit inside of the browser and have my changes saved automatically, or if I'm more comfortable going with the client version, I can tell it to edit directly in Word. Right? So I'm inside this document. I went ahead and I made a change to the document. You'll see at the bottom that it's automatically saved there. So now that I've made a change, I'm going to go back to my library. I have the document, remember, and I have it checked out. So in order for other people to see my changes, I have to check this document back in, right? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to check in this document, and I'm going to go ahead and actually leave a note here. So the reason I'm leaving a note is so that the next person, when they come into this document, they'll see that I had the document, I went ahead and made a change to it, and I'm letting them know what it is that I did to the document. So I'm going to hit OK there. It's going to go ahead and save it, right? So I go back to this document. I'm going to go over and actually go ahead and take a look at the version history. So I'm looking at the version history here. I have all the versions. You'll see this is version 13. It was modified by me, and the comment is that I added a line. So I can go ahead and close that out. So now I'm going to go ahead and share the document. So when I click share, I just type in the person's name. So remember, SharePoint is connected to your Active Directory. So the name starts to come up when I start typing, and knows Raheem is in the system. So he's internal. So I can also do an external share here, right? So this is a personal email address of mine. So I can go ahead and take care of that piece. I can add that email, and it's going to let me know that this person is outside my organization. I have the permissions option here, so I can do can view or can edit. So I'm just going to limit this to viewing. I can leave a note here, so I can say, okay, guys, please review this document. I have another option to require sign-in. So that means that when they get the link and they click on it, I can require them to sign in to view it, or I can uncheck that, and just when they hit the link, the document will automatically open. And at the bottom, you'll see it's showing, it's sending an email invitation, right? So it's going to do that piece automatically because I'm using an external user for that M3Com email address that's there. All right, so let's take a second to talk about security inside of SharePoint. So SharePoint allows you to implement security at 4 levels, right? So you got the site collection level, you got the subsite level, document library, and you can even put permissions all the way down to the item level, right? So site collection, is a security boundary in SharePoint, and everything under it inherits those permissions by default. So what do I mean by that? So that means that if I create a site inside of SharePoint, right, and I have a subsite, or I have a document library or a list inside of that site, that means that the same permissions go all the way through. So if I have a group that has, edit permissions at that site, by default, they're going to have edit permissions on that library, they're going to have edit permissions on that subsite, right? So you can go ahead and break that permission if you need to. But just know by default, all the permissions will push through. So SharePoint also uses security trimming within search, so don't worry about that. So if you have somebody that's searching for a document, if they don't have access to that document on your site or in your document library, then that document, they will not have access to that document inside of Search either. Okay, so finally, process automation. So process automation within SharePoint, right? So this here, this is a workflow visualization that you get in SharePoint. So you can go ahead, you can start a process here, then you can go ahead and log it to the history list. So the purpose of having that history list is so that you have a detailed account of steps within the workflow. You can send it to another level to approve, so say manager approval, and then you could tell it yes or no. So if the manager rejects it, send an email of rejection. If the manager accepts it, send an email of approval. So just for example, let's say that I'm trying to get some PTO from Bev, so I can go ahead and send a request off to Bev. Hey Bev, I need the next year off with pay. And Bev has the option to either approve or reject that request. So that can all be facilitated within the workflow. So let's go ahead and take a look at one. Right? So inside of this workflow here, there you go. We're going to go ahead and do a two-step approval workflow, right? So it's going to be triggered by me uploading a document. So you have two options with SharePoint workflows. I can either have it start automatically or I can have it start manually, right? So if I have it start automatically, then that means that when I upload a document, the workflow is already kicked off, right? So I have the document here. It was uploaded a few seconds ago. So I'm going to go ahead and wait for this approval workflow column to populate, right? So now it's letting me know that the workflow is in progress. So if I click on this hyperlink here under the approval workflow, you can actually see what's happening behind the scenes. So here's that workflow visualization that I had spoken about. And with the workflow visualization, I can see the process there. I also have any tasks that show up. They're going to be in this section. So I have the approval process started. I know the first person. I know the second person, right? So currently there's one task assigned. So this task is assigned to Tyab here. So the title is just go ahead and please approve this statement of work. So when you do have a task, emails do go out, right? So the very first email that you get is that the workflow has started. So this is always sent to the initiator just to notify them, hey, you have something kicked off here. And then there's a task assignment email. And within that email, it'll let you know when the item is due. It'll give you instructions for completion, so you can customize and let the person know what you want them to do. You can also click on the link there to review the document that they're asking you to approve. So I have the option here because Office 365 is an ecosystem. I can actually go ahead and approve this task directly inside of Word, or I can approve it right here in Outlook if I want to. So I can click there to open task. So the task is going to open. I get the status that's not started. I know who requested it. I get those consolidated comments with the same instructions that were in the email, as well as the due date. And I can add my own comments here. So I'm going to let them know that I really need this integration here, and then go ahead and approve it. So once I approve it, it's going to update that visualization that we talked about, right? So here's the visual. You see the check mark there letting me know that the task was completed. Right, so it did that, and then it also updated the completed status here and the outcome of approved. And then the next step of the approval has gone to the next individual, which is Anthony here. So Anthony has an approval that he needs to do before we go to the next step. And it's also logging details inside of the workflow history here, right? So we know that we know when the workflow was initiated with the description as well as the task. And whether or not the task was completed, what that task outcome is here, and also that another task was created. So it's keeping a full log of everything that's happening within the workflow, right? So now to the visualization is letting me know that Anthony has a task. There's no green check mark. So I also know that he needs to complete this task, all right? So we have a couple other options here. So I can add or update approvers. So I can add additional people in Flux as well as cancel. And update any active tasks. So I'm going to go ahead and add an additional person. So I'm going to add another task for Tyab here. So I'm going to go ahead and ask him. You'll see that it says one-time serial. That lets you know that one task is not going until another task is approved. So I can change the due date for all tasks as well. So let me go ahead and do that. So you see here that now once Anthony's done, now Tyab has another task here. So let's scroll down and take a look at what's happening inside the workflow history. So see there, it lets me know, hey, you guys went ahead and you added an additional participant here. So we've gone ahead and done that. So now Anthony needs to complete his task so we can get to the next step. So we can go ahead. So Anthony has completed his task. All right. So now we just need to go ahead and complete Tyab's task, and then the workflow will have completed out. So we can go here. We can go ahead and approve it, and we are wrapping up the workflow. So now Tyab is complete, and we're all done. Okay, so mobility inside of SharePoint, right? So mobility is very important, right? So we talked about access here. So you can send, you can do external and mobile access. There's no VPN required in order to do this. You can use any device to go ahead and view or edit your documents. I've edited documents on my laptop, on my Surface, as well as my phone. I'm on the go a lot. You can also do syncing and offline access with OneDrive. So what this allows you to do is I can go ahead into SharePoint. I can sync as I need to. It'll do a sync on my local machine. That way, when I don't have internet access, I can still, get to the documents that I need. I can make changes, and then once I get back to Wi-Fi, it can go ahead and sync back up. So let's just say that you're on a long flight or you don't have access whatsoever. There's a document that you need to access and you need to modify this thing. Syncing would be the perfect solution for that. So I would definitely recommend it, and I absolutely am on the go more than I'm in the office. All right, so I'm going to hand it back over to Bev for the big picture.
All right. So Matilda and I will both comment on the big picture, and then we'll demonstrate the integrations between CRM and SharePoint. So let's talk about the differences. Why CRM and SharePoint? One, there's out-of-the-box integration. Truly, it is out-of-the-box integration between CRM and SharePoint, and I'll give you a demonstration of how that works in a moment. Enterprise search, in SharePoint and in CRM is definitely a plus. And access by external users. Matilda had demonstrated that earlier, and it's something we use at FMT. We set up client portal for each of our clients so we can share documents.
Absolutely.
And various content that keeps the email down and make sure that, again, as Matilda had demonstrated, that our versions are current and that we have definitely made sure that the clients have access to that. So if they have a Live ID or Microsoft account, then they have access to that information on the SharePoint portal. And SharePoint is included with Office 365 licensing.
Yes, it is.
So that's definitely a benefit. I don't want to call it free, but it is a great feature with the Office 365 licensing. Let's move on to the next. We already talked about that. Sorry, I didn't move the slide. But let's talk about SharePoint Storage.
Sure. So SharePoint Storage is definitely less expensive than CRM storage. So SharePoint Storage, it's about 20 cents per gigabyte. How much is storage inside of CRM, though?
It's only 10 gigabytes, and with SharePoint, you get a terabyte.
Oh, absolutely. And then any additional gigabyte is only 20 cents.
Wow. So you can definitely see that is there an advantage to putting all your content up in SharePoint. And just also, I wanted to mention that to add storage to CRM is $5 per gigabyte per month. So definitely an advantage to go with SharePoint. All right. So let's move on to an out-of-the-box integration. All right. As I mentioned, it truly is out of the box. It will show you how to upload a document from CRM to SharePoint. You will need a system administrator to go into the document settings in CRM. They will enter the URL for the portal for the site in SharePoint, And then they will select the entities in CRM that you want to create folders for, whether it be for accounts, for contacts, for opportunities, for quotes, any entity in CRM you can create a folder for in SharePoint. So we are going to set up the stages to require certain documents be uploaded for a SharePoint folder before moving on to the next stage. That's going to be demonstrated in this next demo. Demonstrated next demo. All right. So let's move on to the integration. And I want to show you all of my open opportunities. I'm going to select a certain opportunity, and I'm going to select the new store opened this year. Okay, now you can see the data associated with that opportunity. I am then going to go to the menu and select Documents for my opportunity. And in a moment here, it will show you the documents associated with that particular opportunity. So I want to select that document, and I can open that document in SharePoint directly. I can upload a new document and have that associated with this opportunity in SharePoint. So what I'm currently doing at this time is going to my local drive and selecting a document from my local drive that I want to upload to SharePoint for this particular opportunity. I'll come up here in a moment. There we go. So this probably looks familiar to you as far as uploading documents to SharePoint. So this is also uploading this document from my local drive from CRM to SharePoint. So now we're going to go to SharePoint directly. We'll open up that document or that document library folder. And as you can see, now I have two documents associated with this particular opportunity in SharePoint. And it created the opportunity folder with the name of that opportunity, New Store Opened this year. All right, let's go back to CRM. And you can see now that I have these various document libraries, or folders, I should say, not necessarily libraries. I'm opening that up in CRM. I'm opening up this new opportunity. I see now that I want to add some documents. It recognizes that I do not have any documents associated with that opportunity, so it asks me if I want to create a folder in SharePoint, and I confirm that I did. So I'm going to go to open SharePoint, go directly to SharePoint, and see if that folder was created. And no, there's no folder created there for that opportunity. Why? Because there are no documents associated with that opportunity. So I still have my folder for New Store Open. So now let's create or upload a document for the opportunity, very likely, or order product. As you can see, I've selected another document from my local drive to be uploaded to SharePoint. And it's associated with this particular opportunity. Let's go back to SharePoint. And you'll see now that I have a document associated with this opportunity. There is a folder also associated in SharePoint for this opportunity. All right, I think we can move to the closed loop process. Now this is more of a customization. We're going to demonstrate the use of external links to SharePoint forms. It will also demonstrate the use of a custom SharePoint form to facilitate the integration of data between SharePoint and CRM. It also allows that each time an external link is selected, a new form is created. Let's go to the demo for this. So again, I'm going to select an opportunity from my Open Opportunities view. So I'm going to select the Show Awesome CRM and SharePoint opportunity. The menu bar shows a button for external links. As you can see right up there at the top, external links. I'm going to get a list of forms when I click on that. These are forms that are actually in SharePoint. So you'll see that I have various forms developed, pump info sheet, tank, filtration, instrumentation, several forms to choose from. For this demonstration, I'm going to choose pump info form. Note that the information from the opportunity has been carried over from CRM to the SharePoint form. And what this is demonstrated is how we're going to keep the information on these SharePoint forms in sync with the CRM information. So you can see here all of this data associated with this form in CRM has been synced with the form on SharePoint. I'm going to be entering some new information, engineering number. I'm going to add an owner, Steve, and I'm going to create a due date for my quote. All right. So now let's save this data. So I'll hit commit and then I'll hit save. And now we're going to sync it back. And you'll see is that this form is now in a list and it has that associated metadata with it, Steve, and my quote date. And I go back to CRM and I click on my menu and I go back to info sheets. And for this particular opportunity, it shows you the info sheet I just filled out. And this is in CRM. And I click on that, and it will take me to the link for that info sheet in SharePoint. We're getting there. All right. And you can see that it has the associated information that I entered previously. Everything is in sync. Let's go back to CRM and see that if we were to select that opportunity, show awesome, CRM and SharePoint features, and I would select the external links menu button again and select the pump info sheet. It will create a new form. And I can enter new information associated with this new pump info request. What it shows here is that, again, it's carrying over the data from CRM to SharePoint, and I am basically creating a new form associated with that. So now I can go to info sheets. So since I did not save that form, I still only have one info sheet associated with this opportunity. All right, let's move on to our conclusions. Okay, as I mentioned earlier when I did an overview of CRM, it is best utilized for tracking sales, keeping track of your marketing events. It's great for case management, incident management, managing project data, and field services.
Okay, and best practice is to go ahead and utilize SharePoint for document management for the CRM artifacts. So just remember that SharePoint storage is less expensive than CRM storage, and also a CRM license is required to access content inside of CRM. As you know, as we talked about previously, you can go ahead and share externally without having to give the person a license. They can just use their Microsoft Live login. CRM holds the business process, while SharePoint is going to go ahead and hold your documents. So I just want you guys to think of CRM as librarian and SharePoint as library.
All right. Are you going to wrap it up there, Lucas?
Yep, absolutely. Let's see if we have any questions down here. Looks like we got a couple for you too. First one here, how do you create a site instead of creating a folder inside of a document library?
Sure. So we know by default you can create folders inside of document libraries in SharePoint from CRM, but if you guys want to go ahead and be able to spin up sites, you can do that by PowerShell scripting or creating a web service. I know a lot of clients who have done it just when they get a new opportunity, and that opportunity actually turns into a project. Once it does that, they want to be able to trigger site creation inside of SharePoint to go ahead and hold the content that they are required, for the project. So any details regarding the project, and then, kind of presetting any libraries that they would need there. So you can absolutely use PowerShell scripting or a web service, and then just use a template inside of SharePoint for that automated creation.
And looks like we got one more here. I am working on a project where it is necessary to integrate Dynamics CRM 2016 on-prem with SharePoint 2016 on-prem using the server-side integration. Can I do this with a standard license, or do I need the enterprise one?
I think we had discussed this may require some further research, but from all indication, it appears that an enterprise license would be the proper licensing for that integration.
Yep, and that's all the questions. Everybody, thank you for joining us today. If you have any further questions, we will be following up with all the attendees, so feel free to ask at that time. We truly do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us, and we hope to see you at all our future events. Have a great day.